Hi everybody. Okay, one more video on monohybrid crosses and then we're moving on. This is problem set 3, monohybrid crosses. We are going to continue to work with rose apples for a couple of our problems here. Okay, now rose apples controlled by a single gene that produces flowers that are red and flowers that are white. Flowers that are heterozygous are red, but you don't have to do a cross for this problem. What are the possible genotypes for this trait? Again, genes. That means we're looking at letters. So our genotypes, because we're looking at complete dominance, or simple dominance, that means that we only have two different of our phenotypes. Okay, so we have red and we have white. If you start with a pure breeding red and a pure breeding white plant, show the cross to get the F1 and F2 genotypic and phenotypic ratios. Okay, so if we cross these two individuals, we wind up with our gametes, and remember, gametes are half the information. So if there's two letters here, there's only one letter, and I have a big R or a big R. And here I have a little r or a little r. And when I put those together, I get this. All of my boxes, okay, are heterozygous. And remember that this is the dominant one, so they're red. Now to get the F2 generation, we are going to cross two of those. So that means we're crossing the heterozygote and the heterozygote. And our gametes mean that I have half the information. Two letters here, so I get one letter. So I have a capital R or a lowercase r. Capital R, lowercase r. And fill my information in. My genotypic ratio is 1 homozygous dominant, 2 heterozygous, and 1 homozygous recessive. But you got to write it correctly. There we go. And for our phenotypic ratio, remember that is what we can see or what we can test for. So that would be red or white. And I had 1, 2, 3 that are red and 1 that is white. Okay, next problem. Cross a heterozygous red with a white rose apple. What are the genotypes of the two? So heterozygous, hetero means different, and it's red. So I know it has to have one of those. And it's heterozygous, so the other one is different. And white, to be white, that means you have to have two recessives. So there's our parents. What is the genotypic and phenotypic ratio of the offspring? So if I do a quick square here, I know that I'm going to have one letter for each. There's my offspring. So for my genotypic ratio, I'm going to have 2 that are like this, heterozygous, and 2 like that, homozygous recessive. Okay, for my phenotypic ratio, I know I have red and I have white. Well, I have 2 that are red and 2 that are white. From this cross, if there were 300 seeds produced, okay, 300 seeds produced, how many would grow up to have red flowers? Well, I know that it's half and half red, half white. So half of 300 is 150. How many would be heterozygous? Well, if I look at my cross here, okay, I had 2 that were heterozygous and 2 that are homozygous, so that means half of them are heterozygous. How many would be homozygous dominant. Well, if I look here, homozygous dominant would mean I have 2 capital R's, and I don't have any of those. So none of the offspring can be homozygous dominant. All right, we're going to change now. We're going to talk about humans. In humans, when humans interlace their fingers, they always do it the same way. So when you go like this and fold your hands, the position of the thumb is a trait controlled by a gene. The right thumb on top of the left is dominant to having the left on top. A man and a woman had a son who was recessive for this trait. Both parents were dominant, and the woman is expecting another child. Okay, so let's use our space to the side here. We know that both parents are dominant, so let's pick a letter. Let's use T's for thumb. So we know that both parents have a capital because they both show the dominant trait. And they have a son, but that son is recessive for the trait. Okay. Now, they had to get the T's from somewhere, these little T's. So one came from one parent and one came from the other parent. So now I know what the parents are. What thumb do the parents have on top? Well, it said that they are heterozygous. Okay? That means that they show the dominant trait. Okay? The dominant one is right. So the parents both have right on top. What are the genotypes of the parents and the son? So we know that we had this and that the son is this. Could I have picked a different letter? Yep, you can pick any letter you want to. What are the chances that the expected baby would be right thumb on top? Okay, to find out the chances, that means we have to do a cross. Okay, so we're going to do a cross to see what we would get if we cross these two parents. Whoops, got to do them right. So capital T, then a lowercase t. Okay, now put all that information back together. It looks familiar, right? So what are the chances that the expected baby would be right thumb on top? Right is dominant. So we have a 3/4 chance or 75%. You can write it either way. What are the chances that the baby would be heterozygous? Well, heterozygous means 2 different ones. There's 2 out of 4, which is 1/2 or 50%. All right, now here's the one's a little different. What are the chances the baby is going to be a girl? Well, it's 50-50, boy or girl, so it's 50%. All right, next video is moving on to harder stuff. We're going to look at dihybrid crosses.